This technique is a way of masking out a surface so that you can actually generate a particular image or design. This works for both just general designs as well as more detailed designs. So what I've done is I've pre-cut out a few just paper stencils, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this onto the surface. This technique, it's kind of good to have slightly damper clay. I'll put my other little cloud right there, and I'm going to slightly press this in. And this is something where I'm going to have to be really careful when I peel this up. And then I'm just going to block out part of the bottom half of this now. Right. And it is important to press it down because if it's not actually sticking to the surface completely, the slip will bleed under it because it is fairly liquid. And then I'm just going to apply my slip. I'm going to start with a sort of thin layer going right over the edges of the paper, just to make sure everything's stuck down nice and neat. And then I will go back and add an additional layer over the entire surface. Now, this is something you should probably let sit and dry for just a few minutes, just enough. So it kind of settles and it's not going to move, but usually this takes maybe 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and peel this up. So you can see it's a little damp. If you wait too long on letting it dry, it will actually peel up chunks of the color you want to stay there. So I'm going to pull that away. And you can use your needle tool, or I'm using my paring knife, and I'm going to just use the corner of it to get underneath this middle stencil and peel it away. So what this is going to end up being is there's white here as clouds, and I've got blue sky. And then I can just take my green. I would not recommend doing a masking technique over the top of this again, unless you really let it dry for a while. If you let it dry to the point where it's not really sticky, it's not shiny at all, odds are you'll be okay, but you run the risk of actually peeling up that surface just because the slips that have color in them tend to do that more. So this would be something where I would go back in, and for this bottom bit, I would just go ahead and do this by hand because it's more or less a straight line. One of the things you may want to think about when you are applying slip, however, especially if you're going to do any layering or masking out, is if you are going to layer slip colors, always work from lightest to darkest. Because sometimes if you apply a lighter color slip over top a darker color, that darker color will still bleed through. And that is just simple masking.